The UK-EU reset announced today is decent. I mean, it doesn't go as far as I'd like to go, which is joining the EU outright, but it's an important step in the right direction. And it's got three key components. One is defence, two is youth mobility, and three is reducing trade barriers through alignment. But let's go through what those three things are. So firstly, with defence, the EU has announced a €150 billion package in order for defence companies and researchers across Europe to actually start building up Europe's defence capacity. So it's a pooling of money and a pooling of resources to really get Europe linked up on defence in order that we can support Ukraine, keep Russia back, and particularly fill in the gap with America being utterly unreliable now under Trump. And so this means that the UK can now join all of that effort because we've got a framework with the rest of Europe where we're going to be working on that together, and we'll probably pay to play in that whole scheme like we pay to play in the science programme. So that's good. That's important. Feels like we're part of the team together in defence and security of Europe. That's formalised. The second thing is youth mobility. And this is a complete gift for the UK because, I mean, a recent poll showed 70% of the UK support it versus 17% against. But it just means that young people, 18 to 30, can get a 2-year, 3-year visa to just, if they're from the rest of Europe, come to the UK for 2 to 3 years, work here, what have you, go back. And similarly, for UK youth, go anywhere within the EU for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it's going to be finalised to be, and do jobs there, do work, get life experiences in a way that they couldn't before because there were such limitations before. And this is really going to be useful for young people. Take, for example, the outbound tourism industry of the UK. When British companies take people to the continent, they do long lease on a chalet or a villa, and then take people out there for package holiday experiences. Think of the young people that greet you at the airport, that drive the buses, load the buses, make sure your holiday experience is good, clean the rooms, chefs, involved cooking the food, all of these kind of jobs. These companies prefer to second their staff from the UK in order to take them over with the group, rather than having to, hire them in place. And so those kind of job opportunities are going to be coming back too, which is great. And it means also it's good for businesses on the UK side because you're opening up again to the talent pool of young, ambitious youth from across the continent. So it works, it makes sense. Some of the Brexiteers are saying free movement by the back door and all of that jazz, which it isn't. But the reason why they fear it, I think, is because, again, it's opening up the flow of people between the UK and the rest of Europe, and embracing all of that. And probably there are some further steps towards free movement along that as more people realise, oh, this is pretty good for opportunities, isn't it? If you can keep it, well balanced, well managed, show it's productive. And then the third thing is reducing trade barriers. So again, Brexiteers are annoyed here because the way that we're reducing trade barriers is just saying, you know what, let's align UK standards to the EU standards. And with that guarantee in place, and that our standards update with yours, then there's no need for health checks and red tape at the border because we've got the matching standards and the guarantee of matching standards. And that means for example, the fishing industry, when Brexit came along and suddenly we were outside the single market and customs union, you needed all this paperwork to get across the border, and that was really prohibitive for Scottish, shellfish catchers of, lobsters and things like that, that just wanted to be able to catch them and then ship them across the continent to restaurants. And then they just couldn't because it took too long to get their health checks and do the paperwork. But now they can again. So all of that has opened up. It should bring down prices for a lot of food produce both ways. Fishermen are angry, though, that in order to secure this deal, Keir Starmer extended the transition period by which French and other European fishermen can fish in our coastal waters by about 12 years. And that's made them hopping mad. And I think that's been something because the French were just really pushy on it. But nevertheless, it's going to help them that they can actually sell into the EU market, which was absolutely their biggest market, and for many species of fish, much bigger than the UK market for things that they were catching. But importantly, if you are interested in the UK rejoining the EU, building back to membership, then to actually have the collaborative framework on defence and security, which you can expand because it's all about being in the same team with Europe, that covers that end of things. There's also going to be building on the trading emission schemes and energy networks together, which is again, important for just integration. But then you have on top of that the two big things that Brexiteers were trying to squeal about in order to say we should stay away from Europe. And that's any notion of free movement and mobility and things like that. And also any idea that we would be rule takers from Europe rather than making our own rules. Well, we've had years outside the EU and we haven't made any of our own rules on some of these standards because our industries have said we actually like the European standards. So to start breaking down the barriers to getting back in customs union, single market and EU outright, this is actually a good step for sort of taking that on. So I'm quite pleased with how the summit's gone today. And if you've got this far in the video, then you really are a politics nerd. And you should consider following me and even maybe subscribing to me if you can, because this is what I do. Thank you very much for your time and attention.